Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by lineups.com. Nate and Josh coming to you on a Friday, closing out this work week with 5 NBA games on the slate tonight. Before a big one tomorrow, once again, another 10-gamer. But we're looking at best bets in this one with also player props as well, bringing both of those to you in one episode moving forward, each and every weekday. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Continue to follow along with us all season. Let's go ahead and get into the first game we're talking about here. First game on the slate. We got the Celtics. We got the Heat. And you do like the Heat to cover on a back-to-back here.
Yeah, I don't think they really gave a full go necessarily at Brooklyn. By the way, Josh went 5-1 yesterday, giving the people an extra pick with you out. So just wanted to pat myself on the back there. But yeah, the Heat Celtics, it tends to be kind of a slobber knocker. They did sit Hero last night, Pele Larson as well. I could see Hero coming back for this one. They don't necessarily need him to keep this one close because they just defend what the Celtics want to do. Well, what this iteration of the Celtics want to do. They've gotten smacked the last couple of years with the Jason Tatum Celtics and all that. But this year with the Jaylen Brown Celtics, the Heat, they're number 2 against isolation. They're number 1 against mid-range in terms of percentage and number 2 and above the break 3 percentage. So absolutely tailor-made to defend the Celtics. As underdogs this year, they've done very well against the spread. They've done well with the rest disadvantage as well. And they have slowed it down a little bit lately, and their defense has been very good on the road. So I was actually leaning under. I know you're thinking the other way on the total, but either way, I think we can agree that Boston maybe hit a peak in their market a couple weeks ago, and they've started to show some cracks in terms of just not catching teams by surprise as much. And then that Miami with Spoelstra at the controls will have some things in store for them, both offensively and defensively. Boston in the last 6 is the worst team in the league defending the rim. And they defensively try to limit threes, but the Heat, they can't even really hit threes right now. So they want to get to the rim. And if Boston's not defending the rim, that's really the key for me on that side of the ball as far as Norman Powell and company attacking the rim.
Yeah, I'm with it because of how Miami played yesterday, giving guys a bit of a break in the second half when they finally started to pull away from the Nets. And we'll see, like you said, about Hero. I don't know if they need him or not because I truly don't know the impact he has on this team yet. Since he's been back, it just kind of seems like they're kind of the same bunch with or without him, honestly, and maybe a little bit better at times without him. But the key to me for this one is actually going to be the total. And I know that this actually moved down from 233, I believe, to 231. So it's moved slightly. I don't think that's like a ton of action necessarily, but I can't get away from the Heat's pace. And when I also look at the way that the Celtics play against teams that play with pace, those games tend to match that stuff. And really they're not necessarily matching the pace all the time, but they are playing really well on offense. And that might be what you're referring to as like a peak that they've hit at some point recently, which was like, how do you get that much better at offense when you don't play that fast anyway, and you don't have quite the shooters on the floor that you have when you have Kristaps and Drew and Jason Tatum on the floor with you, but you still have plenty of it for sure. And I think against the Heat, the key is just go. They're going to have an imbalanced defense at times because the Heat are going to push the tempo on offense enough that does leave them susceptible. Like the Heat are still a top 5 defense in the NBA. They're just tough to go under against because they're also playing faster than any team in the NBA by 2 points per 100. That's how much faster they are than the second place team in Chicago in terms of pace. So like they're going to keep that thing moving, and it hasn't mattered who's on the floor from Drew Smith all the way to Davion Mitchell, who you might think slows things down, but that's just not the directive now from on high. And I do like some Jaylen Brown stuff tonight too. I do like it's all high, so I'm not going to go ahead and like play these thin margins of like him to get 30 points or whatever all the time, but he's doing it consistently. And this would be a team you do it against when you look at the transition stuff for them. They are bottom 10 in the last 7, and on the season bottom 12 in terms of the Heat's transition defense. Something that I know that definitely does not help when Tyler Hero is in. So Hero being in would be like less Jovic. Jovic, I don't think is playing, less Jaquez. And Jaquez is that guy that can play defense in transition for you. And if there's a little bit less Khalil Ware because of Tyler Hero too, less rim protection, less rebounding, and a lot more offense and pace, I think, in this one. So I still just like points.
Yeah, Hero playing would be key for this for sure. Just a weak link for the Celtics to pick at as well defensively. And maybe you want to think about White or Pritchard props if we do have Hero in there. Moving to the other East game, though, also like the dog here. I mean, holy rest advantage. This is like so outsized. You have to like adjust everything. When the Sixers have been off since December 14th, the Knicks have played thrice since the 13th, including last night in a tough one. And we could still be without Cat and Hart and Mitch. We'll see. OG and Brunson have now played 75 minutes in the last 3 nights. And this is the fourth back-to-back of the season for the Knicks. They were able to beat like a really weak Washington and Charlotte team, but they also got smacked by Orlando on the other back-to-back. So in the new Tibbs era, we'll see how they respond to this short rest spot. But the Sixers, especially Maxey, who's been off since December 7th, since he had a little illness. So he is extremely rested. And I'll remind you, he dropped 40 on a 150 offensive rating the one time he got 2 days rest this year. Obviously came out like a bat out of hell to start the season. So I think this is a nice way to play it, is like you can adjust the lineup and take Maxey to get 25 points, which is below his prop. He has averaged 31.5 his last 2 against the Knicks, despite really awful shooting splits, 39, 10%. And he's playing much better at this point this year. I mean, I don't know what the matchup is for him. Mikal, I guess, gives it a shot. He is one of those guys who OG, one of the few guys OG cannot deal with, right? OG pretty much guard everybody in the NBA. And then you look at Paul George, pretty good, still pretty good. Last time we saw him, and now he gets like a full week of rest. He's playing really well on both ends of the floor. Going to be an issue for a tired OG or Mikal Bridges. Just flagging that Sixers are number 1 in fourth quarter points per game allowed for whatever reason, and they're also 8-2 ATS on the road. Just some things that fit into this as far as them giving the Knicks a good game here at the Garden.
Yeah, I think they probably win. The only thing that might help the Knicks is like they also play really well with rest, and now Hart it would be coming back with a bunch of rest. Cat would be coming back with a bunch of rest, and those are 2 guys that benefit a ton from having at least 2 days of rest. And now they haven't played since Tuesday, so obviously they also probably went out to the clubs on Tuesday after the win, so we'll give them legitimately 2 days of rest. Wednesday doesn't count; they were just nursing hangovers those days, most likely. But for Hart, also like the big difference, like he goes up at like 2 in everything essentially on his props when he has 2+ days of rest, especially when you compare it to 1 or fewer days of rest for him. It's just not even the same player, and that's why they went out. So I do fully expect Hart in there. I also think that Cat plays, and I could see Mitch Rob not playing or it being dependent on if Joel plays, that kind of stuff, a little bit cat and mouse with the injury reports. But I do think Maxey's going to go absolutely off, and we know Bridges is going to play, and I do think Brunson does too. So like I don't think OG is going to be the one sitting, but yeah, the 2 guys OG can't guard in the NBA: Tyrese Maxey, TJ McConnell. Can't do it. Just for some reason, can't do it. But for Josh Hart, like I said, I do think I'm just going to go in on his prop on this one on the boards. I would love the boards for him when he's playing the 76ers. Also keep an eye out whenever he's playing the Pacers. Love those 2 matchups for him all the time. The Pacers, because they're just a team full of wings that he can rebound against. This squad, because you got to box out Joel. And you've got to focus on making sure he's not getting offensive boards, which he started doing in the last couple games. And I actually like the fact that Joel started boarding as a sort of a feather in the cap of this over for Hart, because of the fact that it means that we need to worry about him. And I say we because I'm a Knicks fan, but they need to worry about Joel Embiid on the offensive boards. They also need to worry about Dominic Barlow on the offensive boards. That's something that he's really just all he's there for on offense, is to do that, set screens, and be the off ball guy from that standpoint. So I think Josh Hart comes in and has a really good game rebounding, and I do think he plays. I wouldn't be upset with anything like PRA for him as a whole as well. I just like this one the most, and like a double type of night for him.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be an interesting way to play it, is juicing up with the points and the rebounds, and maybe playing around with the spread as well, saying this is going to be a competitive game, therefore Josh Hart's going to play his normal load minutes, and with the extra rest, like you said, his stats do tend to spike. Player props, we got Chet at Minnesota, right? And he's a hometown kid who loves stepping up in Minnesota. He's former Mr. Basketball in Minnesota, so that's part of the narrative. But really, I what I found is that he's just been playing a lot better since J-Dub has gotten in the lineup all season. I mean, 115 offensive rating before J-Dub returns, now a 133 offensive rating, moved up to 20.8 points, 8 rebounds, shooting 54% from deep in fewer minutes per game because they've been blowing teams out, right? But I know it's trending plus 7.5 for the Wolves right now. If Ant Edwards goes, this is going to look like another war between the Wolves and the Thunder. The Wolves, though, last 10 have been kind of weirdly awful defending the rim. We don't know if Gobert is going to be able to hang in this matchup. So I mean, they've been bad against and inconsistent guarding the above the break three. And Chet, yeah, I mean, he's just been getting it done. You look at the last 8 here, averaging 21 and 8, and that includes, one of the rare unders was against Wemby and the Spurs in the Cup game. Also went under against Minnesota, but that was without J-Dub. And I think it's just kind of opens things up a little bit more in terms of not having to be that number 2, in terms of the spacing that the Thunder are able to develop with J-Dub out there. That really helps Chet. And I'll also say, interesting, plus 145 here at DraftKings for him to get 3 stocks, which is something he does pretty frequently. And an aggressive Minnesota team, and guys like Randall and Nas that have struggled against this Thunder defense, I could definitely see him getting some stocks out of that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. We'll see if Hart's out there. It definitely frees him up for even more stocks if he's not one-on-one with a guy like Rudy out there, or even Jay Will. Like I just know that they'll probably turn to the 2 big lineup, even if it's Jalen Williams starting at the 5 and Chet at the 4, or Hart if he's available in this one. But I don't think we have that injury report yet. And yeah, I still love Chet. I like the points mostly, especially if he is playing center and it's just him versus Rudy. Then yeah, Rudy's not trying to come out there, and Chet's just going to be spraying, which was a good look last night against Zubac, who also does not want to come out of his hidey hole next to the rim. But Ant was seen at shoot around, and that's partly why this went from 7.5 so quickly to 7 and probably 6.5 in a minute, because he's really good at basketball, so he's going to impact that. But I think the assists are low in a matchup where, like, when I'm looking at the primary ball handler against OKC, Ant is not a guy that you can be like, Alex Caruso, you got this. Kason, you got this. Like, Kason's going to do great. Lou Dort, if he's the guy, he's going to do great. They're all awesome. This is Ant Edwards, dude. There's like 5 guys, 6 guys in the league that you're like, I don't care that he's playing the Thunder. He's still going to need to be double teamed, in which case he's going to find guys open in the corner against a bottom 3 corner defense, which is purposeful. That's what Dags does, is keep that corner a little bit open, because he knows that that's where probably the worst shooter is. So some Jaden McDaniels threes in the corner. If Nas gets the minutes, I do like Nas points, even though we've talked about him struggling with if he gets the minutes, the PR. But if he's at like 24, I can't get there with it. And Ant being in kind of just makes me go, I don't know why I would bet on anybody else. This is truly the sun in the universe, and the touches are going to be so high for him that the likelihood of him getting the points is great. It's 24.5, which is probably a bit of the Thunder, and maybe another point depressing it down because of the injury tag for him, right? So all that stuff goes well if he is healthy, which it seems like he is, because I think he legitimately could have played last game, and they were like, why would we do this right now with him? Let's keep him off the floor. Bad loss, really bad loss ended up being for them, but doesn't matter. Like, they were like, that's fine. We want to try to beat the Thunder, and that's what Ant's going to be out there for. He has averaged about 12 potentials against them in the last 5 regular season games, including those playoff matchups. So I think you're not going to see this type of plus 112 for him at 4.5. He's consistently at 5.5 when everyone expects him to play full minutes and he's healthy.
Love this look. Yeah, this is an absolute data mine right here in a game that's otherwise hard to find value against the Thunder. Because they limit the ball handlers so much, and what do they give up? They give up threes because of how they limit. So I mean, Ant's going to be kicking it out to JDM and Nas and guys who can hit these threes. He's also trying to fix his biggest issue in the playoffs, which was the read and react stuff, right, and making the right decisions as a playmaker. So I definitely could see him playmaking, and I could see him going 6 or 7 dimes here if you do want to get even juicier with it. Atlanta on a back-to-back hosting the Spurs. Onyeka Okongwu, and I originally was thinking 16.5 points straight up for him. If Wemby is out, or you hear that Wemby has a very strict minutes limit here the Spurs on a back-to-back, then I think you take the points and rebounds, or maybe the whole PRA. But it's just a situation where Okongwu is going to play probably like 35 minutes a game, which is where he's at with Zinger. When Zinger is out, he's also 25 years old, so he's played more on back-to-backs this year. On 5 back-to-backs, he's averaged 19, 9, and 4, and has not shot particularly well from 3 to get those points. But in the matchup against Wemby or Cornette, whoever it is, I like to take a center that can shoot threes, that steps out and be like, well, I'm not going to go in there and challenge these giant stalks. I'm gonna take it from the perimeter. And I mean, limited minutes for Trae Young, that will set him up more, right? He has more 3-point attempts when Trae is been out there in his career. Jalen Johnson obviously creating for him as well. He went 3 for 5 in just 25 minutes against the Spurs last time out. It got 15 points with the Wemby active. So it just lines up, I think for him to do some damage from 3, and then he probably gets over the points anyway, in just a situation where this should be pretty high scoring.
Yeah, I think it will be. I can't imagine Wemby is not on a minutes. I know he played 17 last night, but like, so what? Like he was coming off of the cup, and he's already been on a minutes limit. He shouldn't have played last night, really. And then they still, but whatever. He played 17, and now he's probably going to be out there at most for 20 tonight. Yeah, there's no questionable tag next to him. Yeah, I don't care. I still like Okongwu, especially on the points as well. Like, and the 3 should be there if, especially if Cornette is that guy. Wemby doesn't really want to come out either, but definitely Cornette doesn't want to come out. Speaking of the Hawks, though, I'm just going to close out with Trae under. It's a similar situation. Like it's a back-to-back. He was on a minutes limit last night, a strict 20 minutes, came out, did not play more than 20. And that's why it was dangerous. If anyone was like, oh, Trae's back, let me go under on Jalen Johnson. I was like, Jalen Johnson's still going to go off on the Hornets, which he did with 43 plus points, 43 points, I believe. Yeah, he's very good at basketball, but Trae is not going to be there to sort of get in his way, I'll say, as he has this season. 26.5 PRA. I mean, look, he had 10 dimes against the Hornets last night in 20 minutes. That's absurd. But he is also not necessarily going to be able to get his shot off. I think he will either get Stephon Castle. More likely he gets like Devin Vassell, I would imagine, who also is a plus defender on the wing there. Definitely rangy, is basically a forward size, is going to be good enough to deal with Trae and go over the screens. They're just going to hedge the crap out of that with him, which is another reason to like Okongwu. The Spurs do give up a lot more to the roll man. If you wanted to leave assists out of this and just go like under 17.5 points, under like 1.5 boards, to that degree, 18, 19.5 PR, I'm okay with it, because obviously at the end of the day, if Trae's got the ball in his hands for 20 minutes, he's going to probably have like 15 potential assists if he knows that he's not going to be back in. But this is a good defense, a much better defense than the Hornets, and it's also a team that's going to play a lot slower than the Hornets. So I just don't think it's going to be there for Trae like that in this one.
And they have really good defensive guards. They don't necessarily have the big wings to deal with Jalen Johnson, right? So I could continue to see him be like, try to work his way back into what is now maybe Jalen Johnson's team, not Trae Young's team. And that might mean the potential assists are not as high as we've seen in the past.
If you go onto the streets of Atlanta and poll them about whose team this is, who do you think they're going to say? They want Jalen Johnson for sure. So that's all the time we got here in this one. We will be back on Monday with more action for you. We got plenty of NFL looks for you as well for this weekend. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And until we see you next, happy betting.